Hi, welcome back to Live from the Lair. I'm Janine.
And I'm Pat. And this week we have Sarah Roach joining us from the Ukrainian Village here in Chicago. She is part of a COVID-19 group therapy support group thing. And she'll be telling us all about what that's like and how it's helping her through this pandemic.
We also have a round table. We're going to be inviting some of our past guests back. So we'll have our Florida representative, which is Meghan. And then we're also going to have Jowa from Memphis. And then we're going to add in Valerie to give her take on what's going on in California.
Right. And then closing out the show, we have Ashlee from Washington State. She's a special ed teacher and Tik Tok aficionado, bringing us up to speed with what's going on and over there. So enjoy. And we're back. And joining us tonight, we have Sarah Roach. Sarah is a Chicago native, currently living on the north side. She's an accountant by trade. She's an avid fan of the Chicago Bulls and punk rock. And one of the reasons that I wanted to talk to her this week is because she's involved with a support group for people that are obviously dealing with the same thing that we're all dealing with, which is this crazy fucking pandemic. And I'm a big fan of therapy in general, counseling, and I just thought it's awesome that this is a resource that's out there, and I wanted to kind of have Sarah come in and talk to us for a little bit about it. So Sarah, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So I also love therapy. I have PTSD. So for me, it's kind of like part of my regular treatment plan. So I knew that I needed some extra support when all this stuff started happening, even with therapy twice a week. So my psychiatrist's office, they're called Clarity Clinic. They're in Chicago. I think they have like 4 different offices. They offered 2 coping with COVID group therapies. One was for anyone who was not a medical professional. And then the other group therapy is coping with COVID specifically for healthcare professionals. I found out about it because they sent an email, but I think a lot of therapists are rethinking group therapy right now. I'm trying to do some sort of like telehealth version of group therapy. But they also started a coping with anxiety group therapy that I signed up for, that basically every week we're learning a new skill to deal with whatever anxiety are happening. And those are skills that I've used both in my individual therapy and in treatment, because I have done, stays, partial hospitalizations before. And I really like group therapy, especially right now. I thought it was a good way to connect with people that aren't part of my normal social circle. I really like being around people, and not being able to go to the office or go to the bar has been really difficult. So I've actually quite enjoyed each of the group therapies, even though they're totally different. So the coping with COVID, we're just talking about your feelings, sensations, anxieties about specifically the pandemic. And in our group, we have people who are teachers, people who are out of work, people who are in their 60s. So it's kind of hearing everyone's different perspectives has been helpful. And then the Friday group is larger. And even though we have a skill that we work on each week, like we did mindfulness one week, this past week it was different things that you can do in distress to help lower your stress levels. But in that group, I find that people either talk about how they use skills in their own life or things that they've tried before that didn't work. And I think there's this conception of group therapy that people are going to be sitting in a circle and they're all going to be like throwing their shit at you, their traumas and whatever. And it's not really like that at all. You always have a facilitator. And I think the back and forth is more sharing how you use the skills, or saying, does anyone else feel this way, when you're really stressed with work or school? And I think just having the validation of someone else saying, yeah, I have that experience, is much more helpful than just like relying on your friends, I guess.
Well, yeah, I mean,
for me, it's been
Sarah, can
I
you?
don't know how I could.
Janine, I'll let you go.
Sarah? Okay, thank you. I'm like, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sarah, I wanted to ask, like, what is the overall, I don't know, like, feeling? I know you can't probably talk about too much about what other people, said in group therapy, but what's the overall feeling? Are people really fearing catching the virus? Are they really fearing going outside? Like, what's the overall, is it fear or is it just, what is it? What's going on?
I'm so glad that you asked that question, because in my Coping with COVID group this week, I noticed a huge shift from the early start of the group. So right now, the common feeling that we've all had is we're really frustrated because we want to get back to some sort of normal. Everyone's talking about the new normal, which I hate saying, but what else are you going to say?
Right.
And it's the frustration of not being able to go back to your regular routine, but then all the assholes who are making it harder for us to get back to the routines.
So frustration is the big...
Yeah. And when we started, it was definitely more fear and anxiety about getting sick or getting other people sick. And so
I need to come to your group because I keep talking about, I cry every day. Today was a really hard day, especially since I couldn't get outside, like into the backyard even. I haven't left my house, period. Like, I'll take a drive in the car, but like, it's windows rolled up. It's like, 10 and 2. I'm like stressed out, and I cry, and I know I have a lot of anxiety. I know I have a lot of stress. Mine is still fear. And it's amazing that they're talking about the frustration, because I don't see things getting better. Like, we haven't really had any progress during all this. So it's very interesting to hear everyone else's point of view, and I should probably join the group because it's getting, it's like we have to go back out into society. And there's a lot of people who've been, like Pat, he's been in society during this whole thing, and Pat's kind of like over it, right, Pat?
I mean, we're all dealing with it. I definitely have it. Well, that's why we did this whole podcast, is because we're having such a completely different experience here. And everybody, I feel, falls somewhere in the middle. And going back to the whole group therapy thing, I think one of the most harmful feelings that we can kind of have as people is just like shame and isolation and shit. You know what I mean? And with group therapy, you kind of bypass all that because you're not in isolation, because obviously we're all here for the same reasons. And a lot of the shame that people kind of internalize is because they feel that they're unhappy with the way that they process negative things that happen to them, right? And they feel guilty for it, and when you have 3 people sitting to your left saying, no, I do the same shit, like it normalizes it, and you don't put all this negative stuff on yourself. So no, I mean, as soon as you said it, it seemed like the most that you were in this process, it felt like the most obvious thing in the world. Like, of course, this is what we should all be doing right now. And I mean, honestly, our podcast is kind of a low rent version of that. That's why so much of this is us talking to different people in different states and what's going on here, what's going on there. Because you talk to someone in Florida that says is going through the same shit you are. You know what I mean? And it makes us feel more connected right now. So, I mean, I guess with just like curious about logistics, like, is this done over Zoom? How many people are in these groups? Is it like, 12? Is it like 30?
They were very mindful about the group sizes, because even when I was in treatment, anytime your group gets larger than 20 or 25 people, imagine 20 or 25 people who are all having dysregulated emotions being in a room talking about hard feelings.
Yeah,
it's too much.
Right.
So they have been doing it through, I think, GoToMeeting, like one of the whatever various video conference thing. But they make sure it's secure, because there's obviously other things to consider if it's sort of like a therapy session.
Right.
And in my Coping with COVID group, it varies and weeks. Sometimes there's 3 people, sometimes there might be 5 or 6. We've had some people who have dropped off during group, which is common. So right now it's a group of, I think consistently there's 3 of us and then a facilitator. And I think that's a really good size. And we have really great discussions. Even this week when we it felt like we were complaining a lot. I just walked away like, I'm so glad that somebody in like, you know, down on Taylor Street agrees with what I'm saying, and like this other person who's like a teacher in CPS like says this exact same thing.
So it's local people.
Yeah, it's all local.
Okay, cool.
And the other group, the anxiety skills group, has 12 people in it, and that has been a great size as well for the type of discussion. And the nice thing is too, you never know what your group therapy like vibe is going to be, and I'm really lucky that both of them have been really cool people. Like no one takes over or talks about their shit all the time. So I really like it. I advocate for therapy a lot. This I've been like telling everybody in my life about.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a free service?
It would be billed to your insurance. So it would be considered same as like psychotherapy. So, you know, any office that has a group therapy, my therapist's office also does something similar. They have options for either accepting your insurance or you can pay cash, and usually they'll set like I think it was $20 for one of the skills groups.
What's your level of is it mostly frustration or fear? Like, are you working? Are you going outside? Are you going grocery shopping? What's your level of normalcy?
I've been working remote for 2 months now, and I live alone. My partner is working; he's an essential worker, so we live apart, and that has been probably the hardest thing for me. Is that we have seen each other maybe 4 times in the past 2 months. He's really nervous about getting me sick. I'm at the point where I'm like, I feel like things are under control. I'm not as worried about it. But that has, you know, I've had feelings of isolation and loneliness because he lives 3 blocks away from me and we can't see each other.
Says who?
Well, we decided that it wasn't safe right now he's taking 2 buses to work. And finally, like in the last week, we're like, you know what? I think it's ready. We're ready to kind of say, we're not going to quarantine anymore. That has been really hard. And I know he feels a lot of guilt about getting me sick. That has been the main thing. But where I started this feeling really afraid of getting sick because I have other health conditions. Now I'm like, not afraid. I want to get out. I am really frustrated though, seeing other people, even in my neighborhood, not wearing masks. But I feel like I'm at the point where as long as I'm reading all the CDC guidelines, sticking to the facts, you know, I listen to Pritzker's press conference every day. I think I'm ready to break free, I guess, and start venturing out. One thing I haven't been comfortable doing is going to the grocery store, so I still get stuff delivered. But I just started going to acupuncture again. You know, still got to go get cigarettes sometimes. So not everything can be delivered.
You still smoke cigarettes. I quit like 2 years ago.
What got you over that fear though? What got you from being fearful of catching it, and then now you're like, let's do this?
I will tell you exactly what it is. It's something I learned in treatment and art therapy. And I visualize what we did in art therapy is you trace your hand on a piece of paper, and inside the hand, you write what is in your control, and outside of it, you write what's outside of your control. So I've been visualizing what is in my control. I know what's in my control, that I can wash my fucking hands. I can wear a mask. You know, I can follow social distancing guidelines. What I can't control is if you wear a mask or if you're washing your hands. So I guess part of it is like compartmentalizing that, but it helps me I feel like if I feel I'm out of control, that's when my anxiety goes up, and that's where I feel more fear. And if I just focus on, I'm doing the best that I can. If I do get sick, I know I can get a test quickly. I know that I'm relatively low risk for having a severe complications. But, you know, I'm not going to waste my energy right now thinking about what would happen if I would get sick, when really I just need to focus on, okay, wash your hands when you come back in, wear a mask, social distance, you know, do what's in your control right now.
Right.
So that has, and I'm not saying like it was one day I woke up and was like, oh, I'm not afraid anymore. Like it was a process. And I had days where I was paralyzed with fear to go outside, sometimes not even going outside for 3 days at a time. And I just, I don't want to keep living my life like that.
Right.
Right.
Very
good for you.
Thanks, man.
Awesome. Anything else, Janine? This is, I know her, but this is for you. So you asked if you got anything else to.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking of everything you just said, because I definitely, like, I'm in a house, I'm in the suburbs, so, it's not as densely populated, but I still am at that phase where I know everyone is judging me. Like, it's to the point where my mother's like, get out of the house, you're crazy for not going out. I'm like, I could stay in for more months. It's just a matter of like you said, nobody else is, I don't see any of my neighbors wearing a mask. I don't see people social distancing. They're still hanging out. So that stuff that's out of my control, like you were saying, that's what gives me the anxiety. Because I don't know what dirty person touched something before I touched it. Even at the gas station pump, I wear a glove because I'm like, oh, I don't know who touched that or whatever. And everyone's like, you're paranoid. I'm like, well, yeah. Like, to me, this is a big deal. But it's good that there's groups out there and that, like, they're showing you how to cope with that, because I think Pat and I have talked about this. After all this is said and done, like, I don't think I could, like, I can't imagine, like, kissing my boyfriend again. Like, I, haven't seen him in months, and he's to the point where he's like, well, are we even going out anymore? It's been like 3 months, So there's a lot of pressure for me to go out.
Yeah.
Otherwise I think I will lose out on things. I'm supposed to be starting a job when this is June 1st, supposedly. And it's like, okay, are the numbers going to go down? Are things going to be better by then? So there's so much uncertainty that to be able to talk about this is really nice. So I appreciate that, like, you're spreading the word and that people are, getting the help that they need during all this.
And also, I just want to point out, the reality is, as they've said, I'm a Dr. Fauci fan club. No one has any immunity to this. So at some point, if you don't get, until we get to a vaccine, we're probably all going to get it at some point. Right. Obviously, there's wanting to flatten the curve because we don't want to overwhelm healthcare systems. But if we're talking about our own personal lives, like, chances are at some point you're going to get it, and we're all doing our part to social distance and flatten the curve, which is great. But, I worry about the trauma that people are going to have from months of social isolation. There's a way to maybe think about, can I just at least go for a walk around the block today, and maybe tomorrow I do one more block? There's no reason you have to, like, get up and decide, oh, today I'm going to the Jewel and I'm going to touch everything and, all the produce and make out with my boyfriend and whatever,
Right. Baby steps, right? Just baby steps.
Right. Yeah, which is something that we do in therapy a lot, is, exposing yourself to a stressor and then, increasing that exposure until you get to a point where you can handle it. Everyone's going to have anxiety. It's a normal part of being a human. It's about being able to push through the anxiety instead of minimizing it. And I feel like the more people stay isolated, I don't mean to put, like, on my counselor hat on, but I've been in therapy for a long fucking time. But the more you push it down, it's going to come up tenfold and be worse.
Right. It's all about developing.
I guess tomorrow I'm going for a walk, right?
That's right.
That's amazing.
Cool.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate it. And I'm sure, like I said, spreading the word is going to help a lot of people. So thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Sarah.
El presidente presente ha comenzado una batalla contra los descendientes de los aztecas y mayas, y esta es para mi patria. Prepárense, está cambiando el mundo. Los políticos son una bola de putos. No es justo la manera que quieren sacarnos pa' fuera. La sangre que corre en mis venas le corresponde a esta tierra. No reconozco fronteras establecidas, porque el trato de Guadalupe Hidalgo fue una mentira. En estos días la vida parece una pesadilla. Separa separando a gente con años aquí de sus familias, sin darle importancia al desmadre que causan. El primer paso contra una raza es destruir nuestras casas. Cada vez que el presidente ofende a mi gente, siento la conexión entre los mexicanos más fuerte. No se regresen, hermanos ciudadanos, hay que ayudarnos. Un pueblo unido nunca será conquistado. Tengan por cierto, yo siempre los represento. Tengan por cierto que siempre.
No?
All right, so here we are. We're joined with new guest, Valerie Starr. Say hi, Valerie.
Hello.
And coming back from last episode is Meghan from FLA.
FLA.
With our hair up now. And Jowa, who is the comedian from Memphis, supposed to be joining us, but we'll see if that happens. So hopefully
he's stuck doing pizza deliveries in Memphis.
He might pop
open for business.
He might pop on by the end of the segment. So Janine, why don't you get us started off with Valerie? What what's the deal?
All right, so Valerie is in California, and I wanted to make sure that she was part of this episode because obviously we were kind of chatting before we started recording, and there's a lot going on in California. California is definitely, Governor Newsom, right? That's his,
yes.
Governor Newsom, I got it right, yay. He's really kind of been in my opinion, the most conservative with this. He seems to be really concerned about the people in his state. I don't feel like he's as crooked as the folks here in Illinois tend to be, and they're really just worried about money, money, money. But I heard the news that California is going to stay closed for quite some time. So Valerie, if you just want to kind of kick it off, tell us where you're coming from in California, what your statistics look like in that state or in the county, however you want to tell us over there, and tell us, what their plan is.
Sure. Hi. First of all, as we have acknowledged before, some people outside of California may not have a great sense of the geography and the distance. So I am in San Francisco, which is the farthest north kind of main urban city that I'm going to mention. And then you would drive up to 6 hours south of San Francisco to reach LA, Los Angeles, and then a couple hours further from there south to reach San Diego, just to give you kind of some point of reference. Obviously, like everywhere else, the COVID cases are more numerous where there's population density. So ideally, it would be in those cities. California as a whole has 71,000 cases and about 2,900 fatalities, which comes out to be just about 4%, if my math is correct. And as Janine mentioned, Governor Newsom has been really on the conservative side of being out in front of this before we have things just exploding out of control. So where I am in San Francisco is in stage 2. Actually, no, on Monday, we will be in stage 2 of a 4-stage process. It just indicates a little bit more tolerance of businesses opening, a small layer on top of the truly essential. But with the constraints, wearing a mask, keeping distance, etc. Down in Los Angeles, the city and the county, it's my understanding that they're still having outbreaks. And when people out of state are hearing this really extreme news that everything's going to extend until July, that is not referring to California as a whole. It's just LA County, which contains Los Angeles, the city, but also a broader area and a broader population. So just for point of reference, in San Francisco, we have just under 2,000 cases as of today with 35 deaths. Which is not that that's insignificant, but compared to LA County, there are 34,000 cases of COVID right now in Los Angeles County. And that's why when you hear this talk of extending it, it's because it's really still kind of a hot spot, and the county health commissioner there is exerting her control.
So tell me again, you said the statistics that you gave, because I'm looking at the Illinois numbers too. So I want to kind of compare, and again, this is Illinois numbers. So what was you pulled the state of California numbers. How many cases?
From California Department of Health, as of today, 71,141 cases.
Okay, so we've got 84,698. So we're ahead of you guys for the state. And how many deaths do they have over there?
Total state, 2934,
2,792. So we're kind of on par with California, which would make sense that, so you guys are opening, did you say August 1st or July 1st? Like, what are we looking at, staying in all of July?
The most extreme that I've heard so far applies only to Los Angeles County, which has the most cases of any county. And that would be until the beginning of July. I live right now in San Francisco. We're already in a very controlled way, starting phase 2 on Monday.
So the per capita, Illinois has to be way above California because
I have the per capita numbers.
Yeah, I mean that's that's kind of crazy because like you guys are New York? I think is New York number 1 and you guys are number 2 as far as population based in the United States. I think I can do per capita. I have the percentage 0.2%, but that's just because I think the difference is that California is enormous geographically, and there's a lot of uninhabited rural open space still. There's not a whole lot going on in downstate Illinois either.
Well, because there's 12.67 million people in Illinois.
Okay.
Let's see what California is. So
39.5.
Right. So we have a third of the population, and our numbers are still the same as far as cases and deaths go. Yeah. So that, if anything, it says that Illinois is in worse shape than California.
Oh, it is big time. Per capita, California doesn't even show up like in the top 20, to be honest with you.
Do you guys, I don't know if San Francisco hit them, but did you guys have those medical boats that we heard about? Like the
ships or
yeah.
Wasn't that San Diego? Yeah.
LA. Because of this hotspot outbreak initially in LA, yes.
Yeah. And have they gotten rid of
right? They were just on standby, right? They weren't utilized.
Right. I don't think they got utilized.
They're not. They have left. Once their services were not really vital. I don't have numbers, but subjectively, I think they were used for maybe a very small number of the non-urgent, non-COVID cases that they were expecting.
Mm-hmm. So what is phase, you said you're in phase 2 and going to be phase 3, or you're going to be phase 2?
We're in phase 1 and we're going to be phase 2 on Monday.
And what does that entail? What happens in phase 2? What opens?
Nothing really dramatic, honestly. It's just a small extra layer of businesses on top of those that have been the core essential. So a little bit more action in restaurants, food services, but all with some of the constraints that we've come to know with curbside pickup, up to 25 to 30% of business capacity inside, I think.
So the restaurants will be opening. So restaurants will be opening with 20%, so 5 tables here or there,
Yes.
Okay, so that's more than Illinois has, but you guys have a better handle on your cases. Where here in Illinois, we're just a shit show. And do you guys have, here in Illinois, a lot of people are saying that the numbers are being padded because we are historically a broke ass state. And I mean, it's the truth. And again, I'm extreme. I'm super scared. I don't know what to think of all this. Everybody who knows me knows this. But so I've been reading a ton of stuff, which is probably making me more paranoid. But I've been hearing they're padding numbers, and they're padding numbers because supposedly, one of the conspiracies is that Pritzker, our governor of Illinois, wants more money, and the federal government is helping. The more COVID cases you have, the more money the federal government's going to send to that state, right? Mm-hmm. Do you see or do you hear conspiracies like that in your state?
Yes.
Okay. Florida's not here. I see Megan shaking.
Well, yeah, Megan, what do you got to say?
Like, yeah, our state. You think your state is a shit show? Come on down, honey. It is a nightmare. It is a freak show.
I did read about Florida today, and it says that Florida has stopped reporting cases or deaths. I don't remember what.
Deaths in nursing homes, because they said that, you know what, we don't know if it was from that or old age or not. Well, when you have 100 people die in a week, you know, that's probably not just a heart attack that someone caught. You know,
that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense.
It's just the good old boy rule down here. Welcome to the South. That's how it's working right now.
It doesn't make sense because here in Illinois, they're saying 1/3 of our 3,000 whatever deaths is in nursing homes specifically. Right. So when you take that out, Florida's numbers must be really high, or is Illinois padding everything and just taking the old people deaths?
I really think when you look at Florida's numbers, we have a lot of cases, but we don't have many deaths. And I kind of got into it with someone yesterday about that. And I'm not going to run through the numbers just because I didn't fact check them and whatever. And I read 25 different sources a day. But, you know, somebody said, well, the reason they're opening up Florida again and doing all this stuff is because we don't have the deaths. Do you really think that's the case? I mean, I know that there's deaths. I have friends who work in healthcare. I have friends who are high up in nursing homes that are hush hush, not even like on Facebook anymore. It's kind of sad. But I guess deaths or not, I think that you know, I'll tell you, I cheated last week. Pat knows this, but I escaped. I got the hell out of here and I went to Illinois.
Why?
I was going crazy. I really was. I needed to get out of here. My friend needed my help with some stuff, so I left. So of course I drove 18 hours, but I can tell you, Illinois is like militant compared to Florida. I came back down here a week after leaving. I got back on Monday, and nobody is wearing masks here. Nobody is taking any precautions. The traffic is horrendous again. Our beaches are wide open, no parking restrictions. Everyone's at the beach, which, you know, whatever. I get it.
So what's the actual, and Jowa is going to jump on. Let me just admit him real quick and tell him to hang on a second. So let me get him in the room. But I wanted to ask you about the beaches. Hey, buddy.
He's coming in.
Okay. So as far as the beaches go, what is the actual law? Because it's very, like, particular. Like, it's 2 hours and there's no... Yeah. So, so what's the law versus what are people actually doing? Or not the law. What are they allowing?
So it's actually by county at this point is what Governor DeSantis is letting us do. It's by county. Mm-hmm. Or actually by municipality. So it could be by city at this point. And like where I am, it's a 7-mile long island with 3 different municipalities. So mm-hmm. there's 3 different sets of rules. But where I am specifically, Anna Maria Island, which is Bradenton Beach, Longboat Key area, we had a 2-hour parking restriction. That's how they were opening up the beaches, was 2 hours. You guys were here for 2 hours. It just went to hell. They got basically ran over. Nobody was paying attention to it. Nobody was giving a damn. And so instead of them going back and saying, fine, then we're closing the beaches again if you guys don't listen, what they did was, you know what, you guys are behaving yourselves. Go ahead. No more restrictions. So there are no restrictions in this area. You know, there's a whole chain of islands down this way, and they all have their own rules right now. So there's one beach that refuses to open up at all. So, which is Lido Beach. They're very conservative. But people are just breaking the laws. They're doing their own thing. They really are. So, I mean, our restaurants are at 25% capacity right now.
Have you gone to a restaurant?
Sorry?
Have you gone to a restaurant?
No, I really just, I don't know, like,
I couldn't do it at all.
And honestly, after being in Illinois for a week, and I was in Kankakee, I was like downstate, but like there, nothing, not like everyone is very well behaved. You have to have on a mask or they will not let you in the store. Here, there's no such thing. So, and I still went to Walgreens tonight and wore my mask. I don't care. Like, I'm doing it, you know.
The sad part is that when you wear it, it protects them. It doesn't protect you.
Right.
Right?
Yeah,
so
totally.
you're doing your part.
I know, but I do still feel for workers. I do. Like, that's my biggest concern, the people who have had to be through this and, you know, so who knows what I can step off a gas pump, you know?
Yeah.
Right. So speaking of which, Jowa, how are you doing, man?
I just got off for work. I got just got my essential butt off for work.
So what's changed in Memphis since we last talked to you?
Stage 1, we're allowed to go to barber shops, beauty salons. I got my hair cut. My barber had his gloves, his mask. I felt real safe. I did go eat at a bar yesterday.
What? What was that like?
Yeah. I was the Martin Luther King of it, too. I was the only black thing. It felt good. Yeah.
How was it? What was it like?
It was the weirdest thing because I'm the only one with a mask on. Okay. You know, every time I wanted to have a beer at a bar. So I had a beer, lift my mask. I ate. Everybody was sectioned off, but everybody who was sitting by each other, nobody had a mask on. Everybody's outside with no mask. I feel like it's kind of strange, man. I just didn't like the feeling. I might not go back.
Yeah, I was going to say, how did you regret it at some point, or were you like, how long did remorse take to kick in?
I'm doing the right thing. I'm wearing the mask, but nobody, I'm talking about nobody. There was like a table of 8 young girls. None of them had masks. They were laughing and giggling. All these, I'm going to be honest, it's the young millennials who don't give a crap.
Right.
Yeah, they're the ones who really, whatever.
Because they feel like they're going to survive it, you know?
Yeah. They're carefree. Yeah. They're very carefree. Our numbers, so we just reached about 80 deaths in Memphis.
80,
our
that's
recovery rate, huh?
80, that's all?
80 in Shelby County. 80, that's it.
I'm moving.
Dang. We do got 3,338 confirmed. 1,682 survived.
See, we don't get survival rates here in Illinois. They don't post those on the website. Does anybody else get survival rates?
They do. It's just you're gonna see the cases and you're gonna see the deaths first. And the survival, you're just supposed to do the math and figure that part out.
Okay, but Tennessee, it has went up 285, or like, so it's like 16,000. It has jumped a little bit. So this is what I'm hearing about where I'm from, Shelby County. We don't get a lot of visitors like Nashville, so that's why our numbers are kind of low too. Okay. But yeah, so that's about it. We might go to stage 2 next week.
And what is that? What would that be?
More restaurants open, more like more businesses. But I have to look into it. I have to really look into it.
Valerie,
no comedy, no live entertainment still.
Yeah, no, not for a while. Valerie, does that shock you when? So Jowa, you missed it. Valerie's from California. So does that?
She's sheltered in place
for another month, till July now. So till July. Sorry. Like I said, I have no concept of time. But does that shock you when you guys are stuck inside and then you hear something like Memphis, he's getting his hair cut and he's going to the bar?
Honestly, I am really glad that I'm here, and I am going to be super cautious about venturing back out and try to lie low. I kind of thank you for working, and I wish you to be safe, because I would not do well being just dropped into the middle of a busy pool, so to speak. Yeah. It's a really strong contrast, because at least in my immediate friends that I speak with the most, a lot of them are planning to shelter in place and remain pretty isolated, especially when things open up.
Yeah. What, do you know anybody there in California who's had COVID, an actual positive case?
I know a friend who we're pretty sure had it, was sick for like 8 to 10 weeks, severely, was never hospitalized and could never get a test because this was a little bit earlier in things, I think in February. And I know someone whose father in his 90s died in a nursing home. And they, although of course he was older and had existing conditions, they really attribute it to his coronavirus, which did test positive.
Jeez. And how is the testing there in California? Because I did read about they're really, you know, trying to hurry up and get those tests worked out, but that's a huge part of Newsom's plan to open you guys back up.
You know, I can just tell you that more and more, if you were to search online, 3-4 of the main health plans have locations now that people in their health plan can go for a test. I don't know how accurate this is, but they are communicating that anyone who is an essential worker or knows that they have been exposed to someone or actively has a fever, any of those people can get a test. There are some areas where I saw advertised near me in San Francisco that you could get a test if you exhibit only one symptom. But I have not known anybody that actually tested that out to see. I heard in the update today that they expect the plan to require, is it 60,000 tests per day in the state is what was predicted to be needed, and they feel they're on track to meet it, whatever that means.
I think Illinois, the most we've done in a day is 30,000 now. We hit our peak, 30,000, but I don't, you know, it's just so much information coming at you. I don't remember what our goal was. Do you, Pat? Do you know what the Illinois
Yeah, the goal was 10, and we surpassed that like on pretty early on.
Did they make another goal? Because like
I don't know.
But more, right?
Ultimately, initially the goal was 10,000 a day. I have 2 quick questions for Jowa and Meghan, and then we kind of got to wrap things up. Jowa, you had said there's no comedy shows, and right before we did this recording, I was actually on a Zoom comedy thing with Whitney Waston, who was a comedian we had on one of our earlier podcasts. Yeah. And it was just like this. There was a lot more people, and the audience was all muted, and we had to like go like this so that the comedians could see that, like, so otherwise you're like just yelling at like an empty room, and you see a bunch of people.
That's
like
what they do.
Right. It's so awkward. Are people doing that down there? Do you know of anyone that's doing that? How would you feel about that? That's kind of like,
I've been sending him the link.
We tried. She sent me something.
Yeah.
We tried. It didn't do well, so now
they didn't all seem like they were having a good time with it. I mean, they were professional about it, but yeah.
That's what it was. We tried, so now we just talking, we get in touch with each other. But I gotta say something. I know 2 states that have done comedy.
Wow.
Dallas, and one of their comedy clubs. I asked how they did it. They switched out mics. So every comedian has their mic. Every comedian. In Birmingham, they did comedy show. Everybody switched out mics. But I was still shocked at the idea.
Was there an audience? Or were they just...
Yeah, only 25%. Only 25%.
Right. And Meghan, I know you said that the hospitality industry is starting to pick back up again.
Yes.
And so what's that looking like? Is there a plan in place?
Well, I'm back at work, and that's all that matters. No, kidding. That's actually why I came back from Illinois. And that's only because we got approved for a payroll protection loan for my salary. So I'm back at work, but yeah, basically things are starting to. Governor DeSantis basically went out and told everyone that all the other states with professional sports teams or not, if they're professional or not, like, hey, we have really nice facilities here. Why don't you guys, if your state won't let you play there, come play in our state. So it's kind of opening up. Yeah, right? So as big as sports fan as I am, I'm still appalled. However, that's where I'm gunning my business towards. It looks like we're going to have the baseball, spring training facilities here. The teams will be down here playing a regular season, if you will. And I've already reached out to the players union and been like, I have furnished rentals. I mean, what are you going to do? So it is picking up in that respect. A lot of locals, regional, are booking for June and July. But it's contingent upon Governor DeSantis moving to stage 2, which would allow weekly rentals. We're allowed to do month minimum rentals right now, but not weekly. But I mean, it's any day now. Like, he could wake up tomorrow and be like, we aren't in stage 2 yet, but I'm going to allow weekly rentals, because he's done that with so many other things, all these sporting events, so whatever. It's a shit show down here. It's a shit show. It's a nightmare.
It's like that everywhere. I think California is the only state that they've got their shit together, and Memphis has, for some reason, nobody in Memphis gets the virus. So does anybody else feel like everyone's kind of trying to do business as usual, but is it scary for you guys? I mean, I'm supposed to start work because we're supposed to open up June 1st, and I'm scared to death to go back to work.
Yeah. Be honest, I'm a little, the only thing that bothers me, right, is the big divide. So I think they're going to make it mandatory that you got to wear a mask. I'm fine. But the big divide of this mask and no mask, it's the biggest divide. It's worse than, like, not racism, but similar. Like, people are really arguing that bad. Just wear the damn mask and move on. Right. But like on Facebook yesterday, people was cussing each other out, and this is not even a race issue. It's people mask or no mask.
Mask or no mask is the new race, right?
It's right. Bad, man. It's stupid, man.
Right. Well, we're just about out of time here because we're gonna move on to the next segment. But I did want to
hold on.
Oh.
Meghan. Hello.
What?
Hello.
Hi. How are you?
Hey, I'm gonna come to father, baby.
Oh yeah. That's funny.
Look, I'm so bad. Valerie, I know, Valerie. Hey, the prices look good.
Funny. Wow.
Shelter in place. What is wrong with you?
Right. Well, yeah, I'm the one who was driving up 65 the other day. So.
Exactly.
Whoops.
But
I want to mention that Tennessee, 2 exits in Tennessee would not let me pee there. So there. What? When I got gas, they when I went in there to, like, buy a coffee or whatever, they were just like, no, our bathrooms are not open for public use. And I'm like, I just
Did you have your hair up, or did you look like, I mean,
are you making fun of my messy bun, Pat? I've been working for 12 hours, you brat.
Yeah, for the first time in like 3 weeks, so you're still kind of behind.
9. Okay, 9 weeks.
Right.
Anyway, we're gonna wrap up. Thank you very much for kind of sharing everything that's going on and letting us check back in with you two, and Val, thanks for letting us for representing California. We appreciate that because we didn't have that representation last time. So if you need to talk to anybody, Valerie, I'm here for you because you're going to be inside for a bit longer. And Jowa, stay out of the bars. Meghan, you too. The bars will be open soon.
Nice.
All right. Thanks, you guys.
All right,
We'll follow
Bye, guys.
Good
seeing you.
What kind of a policeman shall we be now? I have a good idea. We can be policemen anytime we wish. And the wonderful thing is, we know just what to do.
Officer Sampson started out handsome, clean-cut cadet. honor roll grandson, volunteering time whenever he had some. Figured hard work paid off like a ransom, but he was wrong as the day is long. Money played a part and he played along, learning numbers like the lyrics to your favorite song, wearing wires like a pigeon at his favorite pawn. Rotten generations when you playing God, got him kneeling on the floor like you training dogs. Pretty ironic cause he paid the bark, puzzled as the piece as it plays its part. People's big flaws resemble the law, smoking chronic in the back on his final straw. A room full of doom, a closet full of skeletons. The blue coat of silence can be so deafening. Starts a truck, pops another sedative, intervenes a traffic stop, trunk full of pure. Hand on his weapon, he can never be sure. Broken Spanish, he needed the practice. Jumped in the ride and everybody vanished. Went home, counted money in the basement. Case closed, no official statements. Welcome to America, young, dumb, and vacant. When you fear for your life, then you know that you made it.
What kind of a policeman shall we be now?
Welcome to America, young, dumb, and vacant.
I have a good idea.
When you fear for your life, then you know that you made it.
We can be policemen anytime we wish.
Welcome to America, young, dumb, and vacant.
And the wonderful thing is,
when you fear for your life, then you know that you made it.
we know just what to do.
Welcome to America, young, dumb, and vacant.
I have a good idea.
When you fear for your life, then you know that you made it.
We can be policemen anytime we wish.
Welcome to America, young, dumb, and vacant. Made in America, don't flinch. Dangerous colors, stop and frisk. And even if behaving, they put you on the pavement. Dirt on your face, making racist statements. Stay calm, weapon in your face. Funny how the lead can get you erased, and resistant to death can put you away. And even open carry get you croaked like canary. County if you lucky, holding square where you buried. They put you in a cage at the earliest age, using anger and violence your freedom delays. Clear as white wine, school to prison pipeline. System of profit for rich-ass white guys, judges, sheriffs, well-paid senators. Hillary Clinton coined super predator, and now she wants her trust back. How about fuck that? Never copy answers from the kid with the dunce cap. I'm not in the business of shitting out fun rap. Music is alarming like the ring of a gun clap. Believing ain't hard, that's the side of my God. Walks around with scars so vivid and large. Does he believe in God? Then let them keep the jobs. Ignored his cries when he begged them to stop. The money paid to mask it is coming out your taxes. Systematic violence is there to relax them. It could be your last name, color, or accent. People you know or religion you practice. The look of shock when you shot like a mattress. Caught me in the street like a discarded mattress. Plenty of answers nobody asked us. Can I get some action from the back section? We need body rocking, not perfection. Flame on, I'm gone. Signed Bob Rok, motherfuckers rock on.
All right, so welcome back. Today with us is Ashlee from Washington State. She is an educator and a content creator. We want to talk to her for a couple different reasons. First of all, Ashlee, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, my pleasure.
So Washington State was kind of one of the first hot spots. So you've been dealing with this a little bit longer than most of the country. What were those early days like, and what do you walk us through it a little bit? Like, what happened out there?
I mean, it was mostly, like, from my point of view, it was me at work, right? Like, in the classroom in the school. And that was where most of the discussions I overheard were going on. And it was like, oh, they say it's not that bad. They say it's like a flu. And this is like early March still. Like, everyone's like, I don't know. What about Kirkland and the old folks home? They had like all these cases and like people are dying. And the school district that I don't work in the same school district that I live in. And the one that I lived in was like the first one to close down their schools. They were like, nope. They had somebody that wasn't even confirmed yet. And they were like shutting it down. And so we were all just like worried. We're like, what does school closure mean? What does distance learning mean? Like, can it happen to us? And when it finally did, we were told just to like pump on the brakes, like don't send anything home, don't do all this stuff, because the question was like all this was happening too fast, and like we didn't know legally, like, can we even provide learning for kids, because equitable learning wasn't taking place. Like you can't be equitable to all kids and all needs with distance learning. So there was just like a lot of confusion and a lot of like, well, what do we do now? And a lot of people who are just like super anxious, like me, just trying to figure out like, what does this mean in our context? And like, people weren't wearing masks yet. People weren't worried about going to the grocery store yet. Like things were like shutting down, but we weren't like as cautious as we probably should have been. I mean, our governor was pretty on top of it, but like we weren't by any means taking it seriously. I mean,
right.
And then once it was taken seriously, it's like everything just like suddenly like everybody had masks. Everybody I knew that sews was making like hundreds of masks per week. Like it became like, it was like we were living in like a World War II propaganda film. Like people were even talking about victory gardens, right? Like they're like, grow a garden so you don't have to go to the store. And I was like, what? Like, this is so surreal. It's like we went from like 0 to 100 super fast. And then now we've just been like everybody's just getting antsy, and everybody wants to take it seriously. But you can see when you like go to the grocery store, when you go places like where everybody used to be wearing a mask, now people are like not wearing a mask. There's like markings on the ground, right, of like where you're supposed to stand in line.
Yeah.
And people are just like not doing it. And then the other people who are like freaked out. And it's just this really weird, surreal world we're living in, where there's like people who take it seriously, people who don't. And then like everybody just trying to figure out what to do and what seems right to them. So it's odd.
I am working with education right now, and what kind of baffled me is why. So like online learning is such a part of like the upper, like in college, like, you know, online classes are such a thing, you know what I mean? And why was it so hard for all these teachers? I know that like the infrastructure wasn't in place to start doing all your stuff online, but I feel like online education is something that you guys all have to be at least somewhat familiar with, because then you part of your master's, how much of that was done online? How much of your bachelor's was done online?
I mean, my complete master's is 100% online.
Right.
But the thing is, like, I teach elementary school, and like elementary school kids, although they're doing some stuff with the computer, like developmentally, they need tactile, manipulative activities. Like it's just, that's how it's done. That's how the science tells us to teach. And so not a lot of teachers have spent, because we're taxed for time as it is, no teacher in their spare time is just thinking like, oh, I'm going to figure out how to use Zoom and Google Classroom and like, you know, all these other things they're pushing towards us. And like I've had to learn how to use like all these different like video editing software. I've had to learn how to like, we've created a website for our special ed department for like the kids of like the highest need, because we can't expect parents to be logging into like 6 different websites with 6 different like usernames and like passwords and all this stuff.
Right.
And I think it was just a lot of, well, just learn how to do this right now. And teachers are like, whoa, this is a lot. This is just a lot. Like it's one thing to be like competent with a computer, but it's another thing to be competent with like organization and like time management when it comes to learning how to use new sites and like software and create things that kids can engage with at home with like minimal support. And that's the thing that kind of just like held us all up, was just like, well, how do we do this? And there's no one to point us in a direction and say, this is how you do it. We all had to figure it out from scratch.
And I'm not trying to get into conspiracy theories here right now, but one of the things that I heard mentioned in terms of, I think, like, if this was an attack on China, from China or something like that, and that's not my point, but it was like, if you really want, like, look at the damage that's being done in America, and one of the economy is doing this, and there's paranoia, and people are blah blah blah, and one of the things that it mentioned was that our education system has come to a grinding halt. And I mean,
some people are looking at it like that, right? Like, the kids are learning and all this stuff. But our superintendent of public instruction was very clear about this. And, like, you do the math, like, our kids are only losing, like, really 2% of their educational time. Mm-hmm. They're not actually losing a lot of their educational time. And really the great thing about kids is that they'll learn just, like, observing the world. So, like, if we give them, like, base level, like, activities, kids will learn so much from that. Like, that we're more facilitators of their learning. And, like, at this point in the year, it's mostly review, and it's mostly just kind of, like, making sure they're, like, understanding the content that they already know. So right. I don't think that it's really done as much damage as, like, grinding halt.
Well,
I think that's, yeah.
You were almost to summertime anyway. I mean, don't they usually graduate early to mid-May? So you lost, 2.5 months?
For me, I mean, having a second and third grader at home, for me, I think the biggest challenge, what I see them missing out on more than anything, is the social interaction, right?
Absolutely.
Because, like, you have,
mm-hmm.
Yeah, because you had a kid that was spending 6 hours a day with 30 other kids, and they're learning group dynamics, and they're learning to listen to a teacher, and they're learning this, and and self-control and all these other things. And yeah, they're also learning, like, the capital of Tennessee and shit like that. But more importantly, they're learning how to function in a little society. And now they're out of that. And never mind the fact that they're spending maybe an hour and a half a day on Zoom in a classroom thing, whatever. But they're also spending now 5 hours a day in front of an iPad. They're spending more time in isolation. They're spending more time with just limited people to talk to, and mom and dad are fucking already going through their shit.
And stressed, right? Like,
right. Yeah. So
stressed adults, stressed kids.
So you take them from this situation with very little physical activity, because no one's really going anywhere or doing anything. So you're gonna have.
You guys, I mean, I don't have kids, but I mean, isn't that kind of what our society does now anyway? I see the moms are always giving them their cell phones to keep them busy, giving them their iPads to keep them busy, and
now it's times 100. Now it's so much worse. So much worse.
I mean, I think it depends on the family and their resources, right? Like, I know families who still have to work. Like, everybody in the house still needs to work, and so I have students who are in daycare for part of the day, and so they're getting that social interaction and whatever. Because if your parent is an essential worker, you can still get daycare. I've known a lot of people and parents, like, just friends of mine, who are just, like, really being innovative about, like, outdoor activities and things like that, mostly because it gets the kids out of the house and they can have a break, right? Like, kids are out playing, doing this, like, chalk thing where you tape geometric designs and they color it in with chalk. I don't know, it looks great. But, like, I mean, the social emotional part is, like, kind of like, we don't want kids coming out as traumatized, right? Like,
right.
I mean, we already got kids traumatized to heck and back. That's my teacher vocabulary there. I didn't even say hell. But we just don't want kids to be traumatized, and so we want them to be having fun. And, like, part of that is, maybe they're just sitting in front of a screen, but, like, the recommendation from, like, therapists, psychologists, like, just, mental health experts, they're just saying, like, try to expose your kid to, like, the least amount of news and, like, stress, and just, like, let them be kind of happy during this time, because it's a weird time and we don't want to, like, create, like, a trauma stake in their brains.
What are you?
I'm not an expert.
What are you guys looking at for summer school in the fall?
Oh God. There's nothing official. So
really,
I mean, like, you know, like nationally speaking, that Dr. Fauci guy said that like we're not going to even be able to have enough testing and contact tracing by September. So I don't even know, but people are getting antsy. Like people are getting super lonely. They're getting frustrated, and like there's a lot of pressure on the government to just reopen. So I don't know. A lot of us are like just wanting to get into our classrooms, like, you know, and like look at the stuff that we have. Like I always watched those like, you know, disaster movies, and I'm like, how did you forget to grab that? Like, come on. But then like here I am, like, frickin' A, like I forgot that in my classroom, and that in my classroom, and that in my classroom, because like you never know when you're coming back in, and like maybe you're leaving but you think you're going to come back. So like we're not even thinking like about the fall. We're getting through this rest of the year, and then like when can we get in our classroom and grab those things that we forgot? Like the next year is like totally too far in the future, man. Like
we've already canceled summer school, and we set aside a week probably at the end of April where we let teachers come back in and carry out one trip. They can go in and they can grab whatever they could grab. And, you know, no carts, no back and forth, you know, go in, get, as you know, fill up a box and get the fuck out. And we haven't let them back in their classrooms for them. We had to quarantine the classrooms. And then summer school's already canceled, not going to happen. And emails are starting to go out from the principals saying that, like, you know, basically we don't know anything yet, but if this does continue in the fall, we'll be better prepared than we were at the end of the spring. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of talk of like, well, at least we are getting to practice this skill and like create these things. But that's a lot of gen ed teachers talking about that. But for us, with the kids with like the high need, low incidence disabilities, this isn't sustainable for us. Like, we're just like, you know, some of our students are in and out of the hospital right now. Some of our students are like, you know, the parents have like 4 other kids at home, and like they're like, well, he didn't bite me today, and it's like, you know, woohoo! So like this isn't sustainable because like some of these kids aren't learning, but like so we need to be back in classrooms, but we can't do that unless things are safe. And it's just like this, I don't even I don't think the numbers. Like, what is Washington like right now? Because we just talked to somebody from California in the previous, in the other segment rather. And what are your numbers like? Have they dipped down? Are you guys like allowed to go outside and do some stuff? I actually looked into this, like, because of my own personal curiosity. Like, here's the thing about like numbers and confirmed cases and like all that stuff. It's all dependent on the number of tests that were actually given that day, right? So if you have a low number day, that's great. Oh, it turns out that you did less testing that day.
Right.
So like, I mean, at what point can you actually like trust numbers? And I've heard that like, as morbid as it sounds, like the death rate is actually like how many people are dying from COVID. And that's like how you know if it's on the decline or not. And like, technically we're like at that flattened curve.
Okay.
Like we're not down, but we're just like, we've flattened the curve. Like they wanted us to.
Mm-hmm.
But we're set to like, they're really gearing up for we're in phase 1 right now, and they're going to do phase 2, which is like opening more businesses like restaurants in some remote counties in like the farmlands.
Okay.
And then they're going to like start looking at more populated counties, depending on numbers. So like, it's just, I want to say like, I understand all of this, but like, I don't know.
Like, where are you at now? Like, when's your lockdown supposed to be lifted, or your shelter in place, or whatever they call it?
So we're in phased reopen right now, which means there's no set date anymore. They took away a date, and instead our governor is saying like, reevaluating data and like looking at the numbers, we will determine which phase we move into. And so we're in phase 1, which is still like complete stay-at-home order. Do not socialize with anybody outside of your household. Phase 2, we can start socializing with 5 people outside of our household per week. But we're not going to be in phase 2 for at least 3 weeks. And that's only if the numbers look right. I guess that's my understanding of it.
It sounds like all the states are kind of doing the same thing as far as these like phasing for certain. Illinois is made up of like regions, which don't make any sense at all. But but it's like you need this like 3 criteria. You have to have like a decline of cases, and like you said, that doesn't make any sense because it's like it's you have to have a decline in cases. It's like 1 per 1,000, and it has to be steady for 14 days or something. I don't know. It's like you said, like nobody really understands it. So my thing is like, how are people complaining? Because I can't even understand it to like know what to complain about. You know?
Well, I think a lot of people are like I know some people in like the farm land, like on the eastern side of the state, which is like rural and country. And their whole thing is like, yeah, this is probably problematic, but we should be able, like responsible citizens should be able to go about their lives. Like it has nothing to do, I don't think, with like data or numbers. It's more like we should be trusted to make the right decisions because we're responsible people. And like, I have a good head on my shoulders, and like,
that's not the reality. That is not.
Yeah, that's easy for you to say. So I think just, that basic, like, I don't have to understand it because I don't know. I know what's right inherently somehow.
Yeah. I just wish they would give us some good, solid data so that I can make an educated decision. So if there's like a 2% death rate, but there's like a 90-something%, recovery rate and blah, 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 like then I can kind of like, all right, I'm going to weigh my risk, but there's no concrete data anywhere. And I'm hearing that for the more states we talk to, the more confusion I'm hearing from everyone. Every state is talking about their padding numbers. Does that sound like that's happening with you guys as well? Is there some talk about that?
Our what numbers? Say that again.
So what?
They're faking or padding the numbers of deaths or cases. Like
so ours aren't. The only cases that we have that Washington has dismissed were like people that were tested here but don't live here. Okay. So they were tested, they tested positive, but then they went back to their home state. Those are the only. Huh?
You know what your numbers are there? Like, what are the statistics as of today? Do you know?
Off the top of my head? No. No, I don't. I know for no.
I'm going to Google it.
So the other thing that I wanted to discuss today is that, you've obviously always been a very creative person, but a lot of people in this lockdown are kind of don't feel the need to create or don't push yourself to produce stuff. If you're a painter, don't feel the need to get up and paint every day. If you're a writer, don't feel the need to, sit there and write the great American novel. And me personally, I'm having the exact opposite reaction where I've been doing more stuff lately than I have in literally years. And when I saw that you had gotten on the TikTok and we're doing the videos, I thought that's awesome because you're finding a new technology, you're finding a new format, and you're playing with it creatively. And it's very clearly for your own sanity that you're that you're using this.
I'm glad that's clear.
Oh, Crystal. So
it has no cookie. I don't have a brand. Some people have a brand, right? There's the TikTok lesbians who I love and follow. Okay. Like TikTok says, I do it for the gays and the girls. Okay. That's who I do it for. And me.
How did you come to that conclusion? Were you just look, I need to do something. I need an outlet because I'm going fucking crazy here.
No, it was that weird thing where my friend kept sending TikToks our way. I was I would check it out. And then I was oh, what's the For You page? And then I was scrolling and I was oh, this is kind of dumb. It's oh, a lot of dancing tutorials. Woohoo. And then I started liking videos, and then it started tailoring it to me, and it was just a bunch of plus size, queer, gay, people. And I was oh, now this is pretty great. And so that's the addicting part of TikTok is that it caters to you. It gets to know you. And it's like, this is the content you must see. And it does it better than I think any other streaming service or like anything that I've ever encountered in my life. And then I just like started seeing stuff. And then I'm just the kind of person that talks to myself a lot and like will randomly sing songs, right? And so I was like, I'm hilarious. I'm going to record this nonsense. And like decided to start doing it on TikTok. I don't remember like what my most viewed and liked video is, like a part 2 of, I made a bunch of masks for other people and then I only kept one for myself and it was dirty and I needed to wash it, but I needed to go to the store. So I started washing it and then I realized like, oh, I can sew my own mask and probably do it faster than my washer machine. And so I made this stupid video about how I only made one mask for myself. And then I was like, part 2, I'm in a race against the washing machine. And it has like 300 likes and and like 5,000 views and nothing else on my page is even close. Like,
right.
It's not even close. I'm one of those people that gets like 5 likes.
Jeez.
Maybe 20.
Do you want people to follow you on TikTok? Like, what's your social media?
I mean, I don't really care.
We'll put it on the YouTube page, definitely.
If you want to put it up, sure. If people want to like check it out. I'm one of those people that has like I said, no cohesion. Some people are like, yeah, I'm like body positivity and like all their stuff is body positivity. Some people are like cosplay.
No, it's like you yelling at your plants.
And it's me, yeah. And it's me just being like, I'm weird. I just like something and then I do it and it has nothing to do with anything.
Since you started doing that, have you found that like it's like a stress release or something, or like it gives you something to kind of occupy at least a little bit of your day with? You know?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, it takes up a ton of my freaking day sometimes. But I think that, like, I don't know, it's an easy way to make a video that, like, all the editing is within the app itself. So, like, you feel very accomplished on a day that, like, maybe was, like, total crud. Like, you have a Zoom with your students and, like, one kid shows up, which is great. One kid is better than 0.
Sure.
But it's like, you know, and then like maybe you get like no feedback on anything else. And like I tried to record a read along for my students and like it takes me 10 tries to do that. Like I might as well make a stupid like pulling out my tummy and being like, this is my tummy video. And then that will make me feel better.
I pulled the numbers. Let me tell you, it's amazing because Illinois' numbers are so far, like, crazy out of control compared to everyone else we talk to. So in your state of Washington right now, let me make sure I pulled the right Washington state. Yeah. You've had 17,512 confirmed cases and 975 deaths. And I hate to say, like, only 975, but shit, only 975. And you guys are, like, definitely... You haven't, like, they give you a little trajectory of, like, the last, I think, 30 days. And, you know, you can see it climbing in March. And then you peaked in, like, April. And then now you guys are really doing well. So,
cool. That's great.
You guys look great. We're all over the place. So what's your level, kind of, like, to follow up with that, like, what's your level of fear? Like, were you scared? Are you, like, whatever?
So I'm not, like, I'm not seeing anybody outside of my household. And when I do see my partner, like he comes to my backyard and we're 10 plus feet from each other.
Okay.
Like he brought me tiramisu and I was like, that's so sweet of you. I'm not eating that.
I'm like that.
I mean, it's delicious, right? I'm like, that's so sweet. You made this in your kitchen, but you weren't wearing a mask or gloves. And like, I love you, but not that much.
Right. My birthday was last week, and my mom, she was like, you know, we can come over. My father and my mom, we can come over, and like we'll stay outside. We'll sit with masks. Let me make you cake, cupcake, whatever. And I'm like, hold up, I don't want any of that. She's like, why? We don't have it. I go, did you take a test? You know, like you don't know if you have it or not. Like,
right.
Going about their business. I, like you, have not seen anybody gone anywhere. I'm like, I don't need the calories, so this will be like my little diet for the last, you know. But I don't want anything special. I don't even touch the freaking mail, you know. Like,
Oh yeah, my friend has a system where her mail, like, they grab it with gloves and then it stays in their mud room for 3 days, and then they bring it in. And I'm like, I'm not that level. But I mean, my thing is, I'm not scared of me getting it and getting sick and dying. I'm scared of, like, taking it to the store with me, and, like, maybe I fiddle with my mask too much and then touch something and somebody else gets it. And like it terrifies me to the idea of infecting somebody else without knowing. And like,
so you're so selfless. Look at that.
I mean, I have had those selfish thoughts though, that I'm like, what if I just see my partner? What if I just see my best friend? And I'm like, it's not that bad, right? I just really miss them. But I got the teddy bear, so there's this, you know. If I'm touch deprived, it's just like, you know, it gets handsy sometimes. I do cuddle with it and watch Pixar movies.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on the show. Yeah. We'll definitely keep in touch and check in on you later. But
so
all right. Thanks for having me, guys. Bye.
I fed a fan of my scraps into the group, learning nothing's absolute, drinking absolute. Life's a game of what we tell ourselves we have to do. Oh, my quiet malevolence. I fed a fan of my scraps into the group, learning nothing's absolute, drinking absolute. Life's a game of what we tell ourselves we have to do. Oh, my quiet malevolence. Can you hear me now? Good. Hear me doubt? Shook. Good. I'm a snow globe for summer months, shaking time to time, show you what it was and what it will be. Ignore the confidence that used to fill me. The constant dance I do feel kinda filthy. It's time to kill me. I have before. We on the 5th version of me at least. Grown around tragedy like peonies. Seen the light I need to reach. Peter Piper to these cucumbers. I pick a peck of you and move numbers, trading off a reputation. I feel impeccable this cruel summer. Destination what I make it. Tired of faking sacred. I'm only playing favorites from now on. That's the homies though. Same souls who know me so well. They see me go for broke and say to me, hey, keep going, bro. And so we go. And so it go. I fed a fan of my scraps until it grew. Learning nothing's absolute, drinking absolute. Life's a game of what we tell ourselves we have to do. Oh, my quiet malevolence. I fed a fan of my scraps until it grew. Learning nothing's absolute, drinking absolute. Life's a game of what we tell ourselves we have to do. Oh, my quiet malevolence. I'm from the era where they trample you for TV screens. Life on the ground, you'll never see me clean. They got me living for likes upon the gram. Heads buried in my phone, how you see me lean. Heads buried in the sand, it don't need be deep. It's pouring out beneath us as we speak. The hourglass that I've been trapped in grinds the stones I throw against it when it sees me sleep. Deposits the top of my eyes to make it harder to wake. We in an era that don't pardon mistakes. Shop it, Carter to fake. They locked the Carter away. Should've said pardon my name. Credit where credit is due. Capitalism got us locked up inside the revenue, peddling fools. Now we model for business instead of art form, following finance by selling off the better parts. I'm uncharted, new territory. I love hardest, don't paramour me. I fed a fan of my scraps until it grew. Learning nothing's absolute, drinking absolute. Life's a game of what we tell ourselves we have to do. Oh, my quiet malevolence. I fed a fan of my scraps until it grew. Learning nothing's absolute. Tell ourselves we have to do. Oh, my quiet malevolence.
Horrible and choppy because you didn't plan it out.
Dude.
Just what do you want to say? What's the outro? Thanks for viewing us. You don't have to explain. We don't have to explain it's gonna be on a new YouTube channel. Who the fuck cares? It's whatever link our friends get and they pass it on. Do we even need an outro, or what do you want to do?
I say we just remind everybody to that if they want further information on our guests, all their social media contact will be in the show notes, and we just kind of leave it at that. Does that sound good?
Okay, so.
Cool. Guess what? We just did it. I'm just going to use that.
Okay. I felt like a fucking fool.
It'll be funny. Trust me. And we're live.
Yeah, thanks.